moving your business online. I am Elizabeth Viljoen from Cerebrate New Zealand, who creates deep thinking events. This is an introductory video for a planned webinar series on moving your business online. The panelist for this series is Mariana van der Walt, who is the Managing Director for the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, and they focus on creating thriving towns. Then there's Kaylene Ledgar, holistic life and communication coach with clients from Australia to the United States. She is the author of 2 books, including Speaking is Not Worse Than This. And then there's Tsuro, the CEO of FranklySpeaking, that focuses on leadership coaching. He is also the founder and curator for People Making History and the chairman of the board for the eHub. The topic for today is remote work is the future of work. The whole world is currently in a crisis, the effects of which is worse than the economic crises of a while ago. This time, many people suffer physically. Many people, also people that we love, died from complications caused by COVID-19. We suffer emotionally, not only because of the trauma of losing friends, but also because we are prevented from visiting our loved ones. And almost no business stayed untouched by the economic impact of long periods of lockdown. But we as world citizens are adapting to this new reality. We are learning new skills and we find new networks. So I want to turn this crisis on its head. Therefore, I pose this question to you as panelists. How did extended periods of lockdown because of COVID-19 open possibilities for remote work in your field of knowledge?
Here in South Africa, and I'm glad you used the word extended lockdown, what tends to happen is I work with a lot of executives, and the average age of people in executive positions that I work with is around 55. So they were born before technology, and you can imagine that this virtual remote working concept was not always something that they were open to. And it's also here in Africa, we're not as advanced as some of the first world countries when it comes to adopting some of those things. So when the initial lockdown came, which was 21 days, everyone just thought it's going to be temporary and we'll get back to normal very soon. So it was sort of like an extended break rather than things didn't continue quite as much until after the lockdown was extended, and slowly but surely people started realizing that maybe this will be longer than we expected. And I think this is where opportunities started to come. Suddenly where I had to travel to meet someone physically, what started happening is, because these executives were forced to connect with their teams and get onto platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, they were forced to come online. And all of a sudden, the people I had to travel, get on a plane to and travel to go and do business with, were now available from the comfort of my own home. And so I think this has allowed me an opportunity to service a wider group of people that I would not have necessarily been able to in a very short space of time. If someone needed me in Cape Town and Harare in Zimbabwe at the same time, it would be difficult to fit them in one schedule. But now it became easier thanks to, you know, the extended lockdown. And I think it's brought about many other opportunities of even going global because all our clientele has been opened and a very big market has been made possible. And I think that is one of the biggest opportunities that I've seen come through from a remote working perspective in my business.
Yes, and business leaders are in a crisis, so they do need help at the moment. They do need to know how to get out of this. Mariana, you
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a question for him. Now that you work online and you mostly meet people online, do you think there's a difference in the quality of service, or do they perceive a difference in the quality of service that you are offering? Do you get any feedback about that?
You know what, strangely enough, I do think that if you were to look at, and it's funny, I'm very pedantic. If I look at the outcome that we get per hour or per unit of time, I do think that there's something about physical that kind of brings more results. However, one thing that I'm very happy about, and I learned to build relationship with the executive assistants to these executives, is that normally when I visited physically, they could easily cancel meetings or they didn't give me much ear space. But now they're in a crisis, they need help. And so I'm finding that I've got more of their time and more of their ear, and they're more open to, you know, a lot of the things that are happening, which wasn't always the case. I work with executives who were promoted because they're good at what they do, but their team doesn't seem to be able to take their advice. So a lot of the times it's an influence thing, and the problem is with the leader and not necessarily the team. And so the fact that people are open to learning in this new world that we don't know how to navigate has certainly allowed me to be more effective in my job.
And Kaylene, how has it affected your business?
It's an interesting question, because with clients already overseas, I was already online working when this happened. So the impact for me had been, I had a plan for this year, and I was going to introduce some in-person workshops. And I had a bigger plan for 2-3 years down the track to convert my in-person workshops into online workshops, and then ultimately online courses. And with the situation, we're now in, where I am in Australia, we're in our second lockdown period now. And what has happened for me in my business is that plan that I had for 2-3 years down the track is happening this year. So I have not been able to have in-person workshops and connect with people that way. I did some training on how to do some online courses and how to create those. And I've been using Zoom to run coaching circles and webinars on Zoom as well with people. So yeah, it's been interesting, because I was not planning to do this year, but it's forced me to do it. Something else it's forced me to do is get comfortable with that green dot on my computer, because I really am not comfortable doing videos. Or if I go back 87 days, I was not comfortable at all. And I say 87 days because I'm doing a 90-day Facebook Live challenge at the moment, set originally by my coach for 30 days that I extended to 90 days because I just needed more confidence in this area. And I wouldn't have done this if I wasn't having to move my business more online with the courses and the webinars, that type of focus. I wouldn't have pushed myself to get more comfortable with the camera and do those Facebook Lives. So I'm up to day 87 today of that. And I really noticed a difference getting more comfortable speaking to the camera throughout this time. So there's been a lot of personal experiences there as well. Working with my coaching clients, absolutely a lot of helping them navigate their situation, and quite depressing and sad for them at times, especially if they've lost their job, and being able to help them find new direction in their lives. So it's been a really interesting period this first half of this year, trying to support them and help them look at how to pivot their business and how to come up with a new focus. And they're embracing this online platform. And I think that's so important, because people are more likely to connect with you and connect with your business if they can see you and hear you. And that's where this online platform is fabulous. So it's not where I wanted to be this year, but there's so many good benefits that I'm finding for myself and those that I work with from having this opportunity.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So do you also find that your clients are in a crisis and they need you more regularly, your services?
Not so much more regularly. My coaching has, we still have our regular sessions. The coaching I often do, I do it in monthly packages, and they're just continuing with their monthly packages. And they were already online anyway. It's more the topics have been changed, and some more, like they had done work at the start of the year with this beautiful vision of what they wanted to achieve this year, and it just fell apart. So it was, again, let's reconnect and let's have a look. And also, because it is so different what we're going through right now, it's kind of like they've been given this permission to just think wild and think outside what they would have normally thought about. And I see that as a good thing, because they're challenging themselves and they're open to different possibilities than they would have had otherwise, because it is a difference. We're in a completely different lifestyle right now, and we don't know what it's going to look like in months and years ahead from here. So, yeah.
Yes, so we do need to be online because we don't know what it's going to be like, but this works at the moment. And Mariana, for small towns, how do you see the future?
Yeah, I realize COVID-19 is an epidemic, and to a large extent is very uncomfortable, and many people getting ill and lose loved ones, and so it is not a good place to be if you look at it globally. But from the perspective of what I'm doing, honestly, the whole world had a crash course in remote work, including people in small towns, and they it's like this in New Zealand. I know it's like this in South Africa, and I assume it's like this in many countries. They live face to face. They do not do the online thing. They don't check their emails. They don't do Zoom. They don't do this. They don't do that. They do face to face. So that's why I live in a caravan, and I'm going from town to town, because that's the only way to actually say you work with towns in a plural sense in the previous world. But suddenly, everybody knows how to use Zoom. So fairly recently, about a month and a half ago, I had a Zoom meeting with people that I was doing a funding proposal for in a small town. They are all over 70, and we did it on Zoom. I mean, it's unheard of prior to COVID-19. It just didn't happen. So instead of now having to work out, which is what I was going to do this year, having to work out how do you go from town to town, and then two things: how do you enter a town and embed you in a town, and how do you start things there and keep them sustainable when you move on? Instead of figuring out those two in a physical travel sense, I had to change completely and say, so what do I do online? What do I launch online right now? Because moving from town to town, even though in New Zealand we're not locked down at the moment, we live like normal. It's just the borders that are closed. So I could move from town to town, but people still don't like to meet new people. They tend to prefer meeting people that they already know. It's just like that. So I'm kind of staying put. And the other thing is how to enter a town. What I plan to do is, one thing I can do is to say, I'm going to do a PhD. I'm going to do a doctor's degree, because then you can go to a town and say, I'm a PhD student and I'm studying, and can I have an interview with you? And you kind of become known in that way. Because you can't go to a small town as an expert and say, I want to teach you stuff. It just doesn't work. But I studied in South Africa, and it's just almost impossible at this stage to get my certificates, my degree certificates from South Africa. And I packed everything away because I'm living in a caravan, so I don't even know where my degree certificates are. So I had to also shift that part to how do you actually now engage. And the way I did that was to say, well, there are elements of taking entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking to small towns that I can now do globally. I don't need to focus only on New Zealand. So I shifted completely to that part rather than to do the physical introduction of the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, which is what I anticipated to be doing this year. So right now, I'm actually very close, like 2 weeks away from launching a free webinar on how to use remote work to change direction and start to live your dream. Because many people have now done remote work. The remote work in their minds now being not going to the office but staying at home. But I have been following this trend for almost 2 decades, and I know there's far more to remote work than just not going to the office. There's just way more. So I'm coming from the perspective that now that you've had the taste of actually doing this, why not look at remote work as a phenomena and find out what your future could be like? Because one of the things that taking your business online or working remotely has done, and it's maturing, is that there are new opportunities that we're not even aware of, which means you don't need to find a job and then arrange your life around the job like we used to. You can decide what life you want to live, and then you can find the remote work or online work to make that happen for you. And to that mind shift, changing your mind to be like that, I believe we're on the cusp of, if we can shift our mindsets. The trend of remote work has grown with, forgive me, I've done a free webinar text recently, so I know the statistics, but it has grown 140% since the early 2000s, remote work in the United States, of which 115% was in the last decade. So this trend is accelerating. And believe it or not, but remote work is no longer just a second income or just taking your physical business and putting it online. People that do build remote careers doing remote work, not only a business. In the United States, they earn on average $4,000 per year more than their office working peers. So it's no longer a low-paying career. And then on top of that, you don't commute and you have all the other benefits. So for me, it suddenly opened a door of engagement that I never thought possible. So while COVID-19 is an epidemic globally, for me, in terms of setting up the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, I suddenly had to think beyond country engagement into global engagement and shifted what I wanted to focus on to engage with the global audience first and then bring that back to New Zealand instead of settling and getting to know and introducing the Institute in New Zealand. So I had to change basically everything. And reworked a lot of stuff that I did last year, and this is where I'm on the verge of starting to actually launch that and start to move with that. And of course, remote work is one of the things that, if small towns can set themselves up to become the recipients of people that want to work remotely. You don't have to live in a city. If you work remotely, you can come. I'm at a lovely, absolutely fantastic East Coast little town at the moment in New Zealand. And the co-working space here draw people internationally who come here for periods of time and work in this small town. And I want to accelerate those things because you bring new thinking, you bring new resources into a small town, and that's what I'm all about.
Oh. Did it also influence your lifestyle? Because you're working internationally, you would probably often have an interview with someone in an area of the world that's 17 hours from you. So it's the middle of the night. And then your sleep pattern might be disturbed, but it doesn't matter because you don't have to go into the office. You can sleep in
Correct.
tomorrow. You just need to be fresh for your interview. How did
Correct.
all that?
I'm actually doing a course at the moment that's run out of the United Kingdom, a course in how to sell webinars, how to and online material. So, and they do all their face-to-face stuff 2 o'clock in the morning for me. Now, usually I listen to the recording, but sometimes I do want to actually engage, and then I have to stay awake until 2 o'clock in the morning. But like you say, it doesn't matter, because then I can just either sleep early beforehand or sleep afterwards, which is what I prefer doing. So for me, it really opened a lot of doors and opened a lot of additional opportunities. And I do believe the fact that people in small towns suddenly became okay with the online world is going to accelerate, regardless of what I do or don't do, but is going to accelerate small town development anyway, because suddenly they found a completely new way of going about life it was there in the past, but they just didn't engage. Now they have engaged, and a whole new world is opening up as a result of that.
Yeah. So it opened doors for your business, but it will also open doors for their businesses. And they
it means and they're going to do that with or without me. If you understand what I mean, it's a new world for them that's opening up just because they have engaged online. Previously, when I went to small towns, they wanted to set up, like, for instance, the town hall with video conferencing, because they want their people in America to attend weddings and funerals, etc. So that wasn't a business thing. Or even people thinking about setting up a business online. Those were there, but they were few far apart. It was a life thing that they want to engage with their family from overseas. But now it's different, because everybody had a crash course in remote work, and it became the norm, like picking up your phone and dialing somebody. Now you're just Zooming somebody.
Yeah. Or Teams thing. Whichever you do.
Yeah, whatever you do.
So now that we all see how moving your business online benefit both you and your clients, what will be your final thoughts? What will you tell a client how to turn a crisis into something that can help them to grow their businesses?
I think if you look at the history of disruptions or industrial revolutions or anything of that sort, people, we've probably gone into some kind of a recession and even depressions in the past. But however, we've emerged a lot stronger. I mean, if you were to look at the history of the first, second, third industrial revolutions, unemployment has generally become less and less after each of those industrial revolutions. And some time ago, I had a quote from an old philosopher some many years ago who said, "Fighting the future is fighting a losing battle." Fighting the future is fighting a losing battle. I think Mariana has mentioned the stats, and I think the best possible advice I could give to anyone is to really to pause and to start learning a lot about some of these trends that are emerging, and learning some of our old habits, and having to relearn some of the core aspects like communication, which Kaylene covers, which will remain fundamentally the same. I think the core value of what we do may not be changed. It's just going to be done in a different form. So I've had, for example, people were running fitness. So people used to be fitness instructors in gyms. Now their gyms are closed in some countries because of the physical distancing. But the thing is, people still want to be fit. And in fact, right now, a lot of people are picking up weight because they don't have so much time to exercise and move around. And so there's an opportunity to still meet that core value in a different form because that need will still remain there. So I'd like to advise people not to fight the future. I think this is a great opportunity for us to learn the new world and learn some of our old habits, which is the harder part, and relearn some of the important things that we need to do so that we can take advantage of what lays ahead in the future. And again, from the statistics that Mariana shared, I think there's so much flexibility and so much opportunity and so much rewards that may come from adopting this new new wave that has suddenly been accelerated through this pandemic. So I really look forward to having an exciting future and whatever it is that it will bring for us going forward.
Thank you, Frank. Kaylene?
I absolutely love that, Frank. That was fabulous. You motivated me and inspired me just then. So thank you. With crisis, we definitely get opportunities, and that's what I've been seeing. And I feel that one of the biggest learnings I've got from here is it's kind of like giving people permission to think differently. It's kind of thrown us in a situation where we can now be creative, look at different ideas. And a lot of the people I'm working with, it's also been a matter of allowing them to stop and think, what do you truly want to do in life? And a number of them are redirecting, and I've got people that have normal, what you would call 9-to-5 type jobs that are looking at becoming business owners. So they'll be interested in learning, I think, from Mariana as well, because they've got this freedom right now and time to think of something different. So the way that our life has been up until, for me, where I live, pre-March, when we went down lockdown first time. So life before then, that's gone. And yes, we've got a choice of having our life back like that when we eventually come out of this. But don't let that be the case. Take the opportunity, take this unique opportunity and turn a crisis into an opportunity for you, and come out of it better, come out of it stronger, come out of it more connected with yourself and who you are and what you want to achieve in this life. And I do believe it is through this online platform of being able to connect. You don't have to just connect with the people in your household, in your street, in your community. You can go and connect with people anywhere around the world. So make the most of this opportunity, and who knows where it's going to take you.
Definitely. Mariana, final thoughts.
Yeah, for me, there are really two things. If I speak to businesses, the one thing that I want businesses to really realize, I'm excited about this because it opens a whole new world. Businesses, and remember, I always think small towns because that's what I do. Businesses are no longer constrained with the lack of talent, of local talent. They can recruit globally, and certain work can be done remotely, which means there are opportunities for businesses in small towns that weren't there before. They just need to learn how to build teams that have remote workers as part of that. That's for businesses. So many of the constraints that they used to have, they don't have in this new brave world that now know how to engage online. For individuals, one of the main reasons why I'm actually launching what I'm going to launch now is, don't think of remote work as just, I'm not going to the office, I'm going to be at home. It's like moving to a different country altogether. And it has been maturing for 20 years, which means it's no longer a baby. It offers opportunities that you haven't even thought about yet. So now that you are at home, explore what opportunities are there. And exactly what you said, shift and build your dream life, and then find the remote work to make that happen for you. Rather than to just, I'm not going to office, I'm staying at home, but I'm continuing the exact same lifestyle. That really isn't necessary. There's a new future that has been introduced, and the technology platforms are there. Remote work has been maturing, and by maturing, what I mean is more and more types of careers become possible online, which means you don't have to go for a low paid for something that's completely different. You can actually design the life you want to live and go and find the remote work that can make that happen for you. So for me, it is almost encouraging people to think completely differently, not to just not go to the office. That's not what it is. Or I'm starting my business online because I can't start a physical business. It's not about that. It's a completely new world. Think about the life you want to live, and how do you need to build an online career or a remote career to make that life happen. It has never been like that, but online, the platforms that would allow the democratization of work and the democratization of innovation. They've been there, we just haven't used them. Now we have to use them, but now just don't think constrained in terms of, I can't go physically, so I'll go online. It's way beyond that. The possibilities and the opportunities are way beyond that. And that's one of the main things for me, is to help people stretch their thinking beyond their current horizons. And to enable that and to bring new opportunities to the table so that we don't settle for just the next step, we actually make a significant change. It's never been possible in history where I can decide what life I want to live and then find the job that will make that happen for me. It's possible now with remote work and in the online environment.
Yeah, yeah. I think there will be new rules, like we have to set hours again. So that we don't work 24 hours a day. But that's a topic for another day. I wish to thank you, Frank and Kaylene and Mariana, for participating in this panel discussion. It's the first of 2 introductory videos for the future webinar series, Moving Your Business Online. And I look forward to the second video in more or less a month's time. So during the webinars, we will invite guest panelists who will give us insights into specific aspects of this vital and current issue of transforming a local business into an online business. Thank you so much.
Thank you.